Stocks I'm watching, buying, or potentially selling in 2024. That's what we're going to get into in this entire video. If you haven't seen the video about my opinions and perspectives about where the market might go in 2024, go ahead and check that out. That's the prior video I published. I'm really excited to get into this one, but before we do, I got to put a couple caveats out. These are not stocks that I'm trying to buy at the beginning of 2024 and sell by the end of 2024. All right. If I'm buying a stock in 2024, it doesn't necessarily mean I believe it's going to be an absolute banger in 2024. It could be a good time to pick up shares for all of 2024 because the stock's in a beaten down place, and then 2025, 2026 could be where the gains come. That's not the case with all these stocks, but just want to put that caveat out there. Talking about long-term holds here, minimum 1 year, maximum, 5, 7, 10, or even more than that years. That's the type of stocks I'm talking about picking up here that could be a good opportunity in 2024. Another thing is these are going to be individual stocks. If you don't want to do the research, you don't have time to do the research on individual stocks, you can just buy the index, just buy the S&P 500, just buy the Dow, just buy the total stock market if you're not interested in doing all the research to buy and keep up with an individual company. So now that we got that out of the way, I just want to take 1 second. Thank you for being here. If you're new, I'm Austin. I'm a co-owner of cloudmusicweekly.com. I'm also a stock market investor. If you're not one of those 2,500 or so subscribers, go ahead and click that subscribe button for me. It means a lot to me. Here's a picture of my animals as a thank you for that. All right, let's get into this video with our first pick. And remember, these are long-term holds that I'm looking at. So a few assumptions I'm holding as we look at these stocks is assumption number one, I believe we're going to have a moderately good year in the stock market with slightly above average returns in the S&P 500, somewhere between 10 and 12%. If you want to hear my reasons as to why I believe that, go ahead and check out my last video I published about where stocks are going in 2024, in my opinion, based on my research and my perspective. Assumption number two is that the rate of increase of inflation is going to stabilize or decrease a little bit. Somewhere around the 3.5 to 3% range is where I see inflation, and as a result, I believe the Fed is going to bring the Fed funds rate down so we can have a real rate of 1%. Real rate of 1% means that if inflation is at 3%, the Fed would bring Fed funds rate down to 4%. If we stay at a 3.5 inflation rate, Fed will bring the Fed funds rate to 4.5%. So I think they're going to keep on targeting that 1% real rate. Now, I've got one more assumption with a few of these stock types and stock categories, but I'll get into that later in the video. Let's get into the first stock that I'm looking at. With the rate of increase of inflation decreasing and or stabilizing, I believe a few restaurant stocks could be good picks for 2024, but not just any restaurant stock. I don't like a stock like Chipotle that I believe is slightly overvalued for the growth that you're getting in the company. I rather like a stock like First Watch Restaurant Group, and that's ticker FWRG, okay? This is the smallest market cap company on the entire list at about a $1 billion market cap. The growth is more than Chipotle. The trailing PE is lower than Chipotle. The forward PE is lower than Chipotle. Price to sales ratio is lower than Chipotle, and the growth is higher than Chipotle, if I didn't say that already, okay? Ticket prices are very similar. Food quality is very similar. In my opinion, the First Watch Restaurant Group management team is just as beastly as Chipotle. So I see First Watch being a great performer this year and next year. If we have a flat year in First Watch this year, I see 2025 and 2026 being absolutely banger year for First Watch. With goods inflation and wage inflation increases starting to chill out a little bit, it's going to be better for these lower margin businesses like restaurants. First Watch is my restaurant pick for 2024. I'm looking to build First Watch into a 4% weight in my portfolio, and it's at about a 3% weight right now, so I am still acquiring shares, and I like the stock a lot under $17.50. It's a light buy above that. It's a pretty heavy buy for me below that. Let's move on to stock number two. This is a much more popular stock, much bigger market cap company, and a stock that gets talked a lot about on YouTube actually over the last year, okay? This is a stock I've been acquiring since I think about May time of 2023. I don't have my first purchase order in front of me right now, but I think May time 2023 was around the time I started buying this company, and that company is PayPal. So I've been building this company. I'm looking to build it into about a 6 to 7% weight in my portfolio. I haven't decided exactly just yet, but I am still acquiring shares because I'm not to that number just yet. Very well established business, huge transaction volumes. They have 2 of the top 3 financial apps in the entire app store with Venmo and PayPal. They also own Braintree. This is a company trading in the $60 range when the all-time high for the company during COVID, which was way too high and way too overvalued, was like in the 300 range. So it's been a terrible time if you've been a shareholder for multiple years, but if you were getting in last year, I think you're getting an absolute steal deal, potentially the deal of the year last year. With respectable growth in the low double digits and an 18 PE right now with a considerably lower forward PE than that, this company is a screaming buy in my opinion. They've got new management with Alex Chris as CEO coming over from Intuit, which is an absolutely amazing company, and he was one of the main growth drivers there on the executive team. They've got some serious new growth vectors focusing on small and mid-sized businesses. That was one of Alex Chris's first orders of business, was to accelerate their growth efforts in the mid and small sized businesses. And they've still got their absolutely massive share buyback going on. For PayPal to be taking shares off the market at such a low valuation right now, I'm sure they're very, very excited. And the executive team is not mad that the shares have been this low for this long. Remember, as a company does a share buyback, they're decreasing the total number of shares outstanding, which can make the EPS numbers look really, really good, even if the net income numbers aren't increasing all that much. We might have a 5% increase in net income, but we might have an 8 to 10% increase in EPS, depending upon how big that share buyback is, obviously. So that's just going to put the PE in an even better spot and the forward PE in an even better spot. And I feel like Wall Street and retail in general is going to have to step into the stock if they haven't already in 2024. Companies that are growing faster than their peers, that are trading at lower valuations than their peers, are typically buys in the market. This is a rare arbitrage opportunity that we have in a tech company that I think we should definitely be taking advantage of. I'm still acquiring PayPal shares. I really like it anywhere under 65. It's under 65 today. I'll be acquiring shares today. And if it goes above 65, I'm still going to be buying shares, but slightly less large purchases. And like I said, I want to build this anywhere between a 6 and 7% weight in my entire portfolio. Number 3 stock up here is SoFi. This is one of my largest positions in my account. I've been a SoFi shareholder for quite a while now, and I've made many videos on SoFi, so I'm going to spare you all the reasons and details, but I will say this. SoFi is a mid-cap that's about to turn the profitability corner. Companies that are turning the profitability corner almost always get a ton of respect from the market because it unlocks a new shareholder base. Tons of retail investors, tons of fund managers will never touch an unprofitable company, no matter how much growth there is. The issue with SoFi is not the growth, right? They have 30% to 40% growth almost every single quarter on a year-over-year basis. It's absolutely ridiculous. Product growth is insane. Total member growth is insane. New product ads is absolutely insane every single year. Revenue increases are ridiculous. They've only had 1 quarter of real student loan refinances come through, and I think we're going to get an even bigger quarter in Q4 of 2023 once they're able to report those numbers here in a few weeks. If the overall market is positive and we have this mid-cap flipping to profitability in the middle of the year, it's just going to increase momentum in SoFi. I know it was up over 100% last year, and it's hard to have another good year after that, but a good year for SoFi wouldn't have to be up another 100%. If we get a 20 to 25% gain in SoFi shares this year, that is very, very respectable. SoFi's in the mid-8s right now. In terms of picking up new shares, I'd like SoFi in the 6s. It's totally possible that SoFi drops to the 6s throughout 2024, and I'll be picking up more shares. Probably I'll just keep my allocation because it is a very large position for me already, but if the stock does drop in any meaningful way, I'll probably be picking up more shares, okay? My next few picks are all going to be large caps. I'm going to go really quick on number 4. Number 4 is COSTCO. You could go back to almost any year in the last 20 years and look at COSTCO, and you would probably regret not having bought COSTCO shares. Amazing growth, one of the best management teams out there, one of the best performing stocks that you can find in the market that's not a crazy high tech name. You can sleep really well at night knowing that COSTCO is going to absolutely deliver on their results quarter in, quarter out, pay their very consistent but very small dividend, and probably pay you a special dividend once every 2 to 3 years. That's a ton of money per share. The balance sheet management, the capital management, and the growth strategies from this management team with COSTCO have been so impressive over the last 20 years, honestly, that if you're looking for a slow growth, very stable value stock that's probably going to give you nice returns in any market, COSTCO is a great pick. Not every stock in your portfolio has to be something that you think is going to 2x in a 3 to 4 year span. It's nice to have some of those slower growers in your portfolio so you can sleep a little better at night. But it all depends on your risk tolerance and your research, right? Next couple picks here are going to be assuming that we get a Republican president in the 2024 election. I'm not going to say what my preference is. I'm not going to get into politics whatsoever at all. But if we do get a Republican in office, the next few stocks I'm going to talk about are probably, historically, going to perform very, very well. And the first is defense companies. My personal pick in the defense space is Lockheed Martin, but Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Leidos, etc. There's so many companies in the defense space. You can literally just Google defense companies. I'll put some on the screen here. I think all these companies are going to have a very nice 4-year run if we get a Republican in office in 2024. A sleeper pick on this that's probably controversial, that's also a large cap that some people for some reason believe is a small cap, is Palantir, okay? Palantir is a large cap company, certainly not very similar to Lockheed Martin. They're more on the software side in the AI space, using software on the battlefield, but they are definitely a defense contractor. A ton of their revenue comes from government contracts, and if we get a Republican in office, defense spending is probably going to increase, especially if it's someone like Nikki Haley. Not only the traditional defense companies, but also a company like Palantir would have a very nice, probably somewhere around 4-year run, but definitely would have a pop at the end of 2024 if we do get a Republican in office. Another classification of companies that would also probably get a really big boost if we get a Republican in office is the big banks, okay? There was a proposal for the big banks from the Biden administration to increase tier 1 equity capital by 19% for all the big banks. That decreases the amount of money that those big banks can lend out, which would certainly hurt their numbers on the revenue and on the profit side. So if we get a Republican in office, I seriously doubt they're going to go with that 19% increase in the tier 1 equity requirement. So since those Republicans typically like to ease banking regulations, this could be very good for the biggest of the big banks. The regional banks won't get as much of a pop, but someone like JP Morgan, I honestly think if you're talking about the big banks, I don't care for Bank of America, I don't care for Wells Fargo, I don't really care for anyone except for JP Morgan if I was to buy a big bank. I don't own any shares right now, but it's a company I've considered buying just as one of those slow growers, absolute beast of a company, global company, great dividend payer, great management team, etc. So if I left out any of the companies that you love, let me know in the comments down below. I don't think this year is going to be a banger for big cap tech, which is what did really well last year. One of the main reasons that the S&P 500 was up so much is because of those big cap techs, right? I don't think they're going to have a crazy year. I also don't think they're going to have a terrible year. I think it's going to be pretty average for big cap tech. It's never a bad idea to put your money in big cap tech, in my opinion. But like I said, if you have no idea where to put your money, go ahead and put it in the index. Buy the S&P 500, buy the total stock market index, okay? Many more stocks than what I talked about on this list are going to have great years, but you gotta weigh the risk reward of every single potential position that you're looking to add in 2024 and in any year for that matter. So let me know some stocks I missed that you think are gonna perform very well in 2024 or are great opportunities to pick up in 2024 to potentially perform well in 2025 and beyond. I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below. Ooh, I almost forgot. There's one stock I'm considering selling in my portfolio, and that stock is Shopify. Not because I hate the company, not because I think it's going to have a terrible year, but because I was trying to build it into a larger position. It started to run. I didn't like the valuation anymore. I'm up over 200% on my Shopify shares. It's not a massive position for me. I'd rather deploy that money elsewhere. I haven't sold any shares yet. I'm just chilling with that 200+% gain on Shopify. I got it at a really nice time, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not looking to pick up more Shopify shares, that's for sure. Hope you enjoyed that one. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you in a major way. Have an amazing day.